Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to another interview. I always say this is such a great interview, the best one yet, and I always mean it. I always mean it, and I mean it again. This is
Oh.
a friend of mine that I've met only online. This is Gabby De Nigris, and she is an athlete and a fitness professional that we
Uh-huh.
really kind of met through the YouTube world and Instagram world, and she lives in California. We actually connected because Gabby reached out to me after doing some of my lift videos, my lift pelvic organ support series. And she was really just kind of, I'm going to let her tell her story, but she was
Yeah.
really shocked that as an athlete and a fitness professional, she didn't know any of this stuff before it happened to her about her pelvic floor and about maintaining pelvic health. She didn't know about it. And so I thought, wow, let's get you on my show, as it were, here on YouTube, as from the perspective of a real life athlete, high level fitness professional. I mean, this is her career, and a real person who's dealing with these issues. And maybe,
Yeah.
Gabby, you can tell us more about your journey and how you're dealing with your condition right now.
Yeah. So, I was telling Dr. Bree before we started recording that I found it so interesting. I had a home birth and I had a home birth with a midwife who was incredible, but she never mentioned anything about my pelvic floor. And it wasn't something like I'm someone who's very in touch and familiar with my body. And it wasn't even something that I was really aware of going into the labor and delivery. And so when I think about everything in hindsight, I think my healing would have been really different if I would have known about my pelvic floor from the beginning. But again, like I said, unfortunately, I had no idea until after the fact. And so the labor and delivery was very challenging. And afterwards, I realized like, okay, something's not right. And I had a lot of incontinence and something just didn't seem right. And so I'm trying to think what was the first thing I did. So I went to my doctor, I think. That's what it was. I went to my doctor and they were like, oh, it's normal. It's fine. It's just healing. And then I would talk to my friends and other people about it too. And they're like, oh, and I actually remember before, because I teach fitness classes. And so I see a lot of people every day and I see a lot of women who've had babies. And so women would tell me like, oh, I just like wear a pad when I work out, or I always wear black pants, or all these things. And I think I heard you say this, Dr. Bree, that just because it's normal or just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal.
Yes,
And there
exactly.
so much of that in postpartum is that these things that are common are normalized when they shouldn't be, because it's truly a dysfunction going on in your body. So I then went and got a referral to see a pelvic floor physical therapist, and she was also wonderful, but it was kind of the same thing, like do Kegels. She prescribed these weights. They're like vaginal weights, I guess. And so she prescribed those, but I still feel like it wasn't enough. I'm like, what can I be doing proactively that's really going to help me? So then I was just searching the internet, and then I found you, and I was just shocked. And truly, you were the first person that taught me how, like, I think about my pelvic floor like I would my bicep or my glutes. And when you go into a bicep curl, you're mentally connected to your bicep and you know how to pinpoint and use that muscle. And so not having that awareness of my pelvic floor, even when I was doing things that I was trying to help heal it, I couldn't really connect to it. And so I think somehow through a video, you were the first person that taught me how to connect to my pelvic floor. And my favorite thing about your videos is that you look at it as an entire lifestyle change. And so everything from how you're sitting to how you're standing to how you're using the restroom, how you're working out, and you're so thorough. And I think I just recommend the lift series to everyone.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much. It's such an incredible service.
Well, thank you. But the reason I want to highlight what you just said there, which is that in my lift series, some people, I say this all the time, but some people say I talk too much. But here's the deal. The
I could listen to
exercises, Well, the exercises that are in the videos, they're great.
Yeah.
But what is 99.999% of your day is not the 10 minutes that you're going to do some exercise. It's the rest of the day. And that's why the lifestyle is so important. It's how you stand. It's how you lift things. It's how you breathe. It's how you move. It's what you eat. It's how you poop. It's how you pee, you know, whether you push to pee, like all of these things really add up. And so that's why I do educate in these videos, and I do educate in the Lift series. And it's something that I think is missed in some, you know, even some, maybe some work with your physician or your physical, you know, maybe even your physical therapist. Sometimes they may miss that lifestyle piece, and that's really important. So thanks for highlighting that.
Well, and also you think about the time that you have with your physical therapist. It's maybe an hour a week if you're lucky. And then you think about the hours of information that you have on your YouTube channel. And that's incredible to have hours of information, and none of it's redundant. All of it is really applicable and fascinating information that can help heal you if you take the time to put in and to watch the videos and to really do the work. And I think for someone like me, who my outlet is exercising, my outlet is lifting weights and running, and I still can't run, like my body's not there yet. But the other thing your videos do is provide so much hope of things can improve and things can get better and you can heal yourself. And there's this weird stigma around women's health sometimes, I think, and people don't want to talk about it, especially postpartum. And it's a lot of trauma on your body. And I truly think of what's going on with my pelvic floor as an injury. It's an injury like if I sprained my ankle or if I broke my arm. And those things take time and patience and energy to heal. And you have to be willing to put it in. And you have to have the knowledge and the resources to do so. But knowing that it can heal, and that if I do the work, I can get back to doing the things I love, and also not feeding into the stigma and being open and talking about these things with people. I mean, I've read statistics that 1 in 3 women is affected in some way by pelvic floor dysfunction. And that's a really high percentage of individuals. And I think a lot of those women are probably walking around and being told it's normal and you're fine. And it's not normal, and hopefully you're fine, but you can make it better. And that's the exciting part.
That's wonderful. Yes, so true. And like getting back into running, for example, for you or anyone watching, I do have some videos on this, by the way, but also the key is gradual. Just like anything, we want to very slowly just sort of test the waters and then see how you do. Don't push beyond that limit. Your the breaking point where you may experience a sensation that you're like, ooh, or where you experience some leakage, that's your sign. Okay, stop, back off. And then we know that we can't push back past that right now. We back off a little bit, we keep working, and then we try to push again. Like it's just a stepwise process, and just think of it as a long-term game, which you as an athlete, you luckily have that in your head already. You know that it takes conditioning. It takes time to build endurance and to build that. So that's great that you already have that. I did want to also circle back around to one thing you said, which is that like you connect to your bicep because you can see it, you know, and it's hard. You can't really see your pelvic floor muscles. And so it really can help to work out in the mirror because you can see, like when you're lifting weights, you can see your body moving. And when you don't have that with your pelvic floor, it is harder, but again, you can tune in. There are ways to tune in. You can use your fingers, you can put them internally, or you can just touch the outer area, the perineum, the area between the vagina and the anus, and feel that area kind of lift and move. And that can actually give you some feedback that's not visual, but it's sensory. And that can really help too, to connect that area. So all these little keys. But I'm curious, now that you have this awareness and knowledge for yourself, and you're on this learning path, first of all, how are you doing right now? Where you're at in your healing? And secondly, how do you speak about this with your clients now?
Yeah, I think, so I'll answer the first part first. I think in my healing journey, it's very much like 2 steps forward, 1 step back sometimes. And it's just because it's a process. It's a process of healing and of learning and getting to know my body. And of knowing when to push and when to pull back. And I'm very much a pusher. Like I want to just go and do things. But like you said, I have to really tune into that long game focus and know that pulling back now will allow me to push later on in the future. But so I'm not fully healed yet, but I think I'm heading in that direction. And having that awareness of my body allows me to still do the things I love, maybe with lighter weights and, walking at an incline, not running, but getting there.
Yeah.
And then, wait, what was the second part of the question? I just forgot.
No, it's okay. I just barrage you with questions. How are you speaking with your clients about this now? Are you
right.
into your fitness sessions or?
So what I do is, I guess it's interesting because I work with, there's 50 plus people in the room at a time. And so there's a lot of people with a lot of different things going on. So I always ask for injuries and things like that. And then I know not to try and push those people that are injured. And also I think women know now that I've had a baby and I've had a pregnancy and I've been open that I've had pelvic floor dysfunction. Good. And so I will have people reach out to me and ask me like, hey, do you have recommendations for things I can do or people I can look at or sorts of things like that, or modifications if I'm pregnant, and I'm more than happy to help with that or pointing them in the right direction to find the right resource.
Yeah.
But I think also telling pregnant women to get in tune with their pelvic floor is like the best service I can do, because that's what I wish someone told me. Yeah. I wish someone was like, hey, also you might want to know how to work your pelvic floor. Yeah. And again, like I think hindsight's 2020, but I think that would have made all the difference instead of now having to do the catch up of trying to make something right that, went south a little bit. But so I think just
catch problems before they start is huge.
Catch problems
before they start and treat them while you still can. So it's huge. Thanks for doing that service of talking to pregnant women or, just spreading the word through your social media and your Instagram and that kind of thing. Now, I mean, what do you think in the fitness industry? What do you think about training fitness professionals to understand a little bit more about the pelvic floor? Do you think that's something that needs to happen?
I do, especially because I was just listening to, I know what it was. It was Ari from the Energy Blueprint.
Oh, yes.
Who you introduced me to. Amazing. And I love him. I love that course that he did.
Yeah.
But he had, and I don't know if you've listened to his podcast, but he had an interview with a pelvic floor physical therapist and like a women's health professional.
Oh, nice.
And he was talking about, it's a really interesting episode, but she was talking about that active women and professional athletes are much more prone to pelvic floor dysfunction. And I forget what the percentage she gave was, but it was really high. And it's again, because people just aren't aware of people don't even know they have a pelvic floor. Yeah. And I think just getting that awareness out there and letting fitness professionals and also people who maybe just like taking classes and who are pregnant or who want to be active and are pregnant or who are postpartum and want to be active, communicating about the pelvic floor and just getting the word out there is so important so people can get ahead of the problems or prevent the problems and strengthen their pelvic floor versus trying to go back and repair it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I love following Instagram professionals too, like Expecting and Empowered. Do you follow them?
Mm-mm.
Oh, they're really cool. It's a pair of sisters, and they talk a lot about pelvic floor dysfunction and birth and postpartum and things like that. But I think it's slowly like getting out there, right? Like people like you are spreading the word.
I do too. I really do. I think this is really becoming something that people are not, even though there's still a stigma, it's so much easier to talk about this than it was honestly 9 years ago when I started my YouTube channel. I didn't even know what I was doing. I mean, I still barely know what I'm doing, but I was just throwing up random videos. I didn't even know why. But I was talking about the pelvic floor back then, and that was 9 years ago. And the response was I mean, it was very lukewarm, but now I think that it's really, it's good. It's more acceptable. And that's, thank goodness, because we need to talk about this body part. It's a very important body part. So.
And for people to know that you don't just have to have surgery. Like there's other things you can do.
Yeah.
And I also, in your comments, I was telling Dr. Bree that I love reading through her comments on her YouTube videos. And a lot of times there'll be women who said, I just had surgery right after I found you. I wish I would have found you before.
I know. It always makes me sad when I hear that, but yeah. And sometimes surgery is necessary, but many times it's not. And many times that you can at least try alternative treatments first. Fitness and movement and that kind of thing. And honestly, even if you have to have surgery down the road, it's not going to hurt anything, because it's just going to make you stronger and recover that much faster. So yeah. And something just came into me now, I forgot it. Oh, I think one good thing too about the stigma kind of leaving this arena is that you think about our mothers and like our grandmothers and these women who, like my mother's mother had 6 kids. Yeah. And to think about having that many children and having no postpartum help and no understanding of your pelvic floor or your body, it just like breaks my heart. And obviously your pelvic floor is going to get weaker and weaker if you're already having issues and then you're not doing anything about it. And so my hope, and obviously your hope because of what you do, is that future generations will have this knowledge and be able to use it and connect to their body better and make their labor and delivery easier, understanding their body better, make their postpartum experience easier, understanding their body better, and just make motherhood easier, because you're not having to deal with trying to heal yourself for an extended period of time on top of caring for this new baby. Yep.
And not to totally switch topics, but working out for me, the biggest thing has been understanding my pelvic floor with my breath.
Yes.
And those two things link up, especially when you're lifting weights.
Yes.
And I think that's something that really goes by the wayside, especially doing what I do and teaching classes, where you're not watching an individual and you're not watching necessarily their body go through the entire movement and how their breath pattern links up with that. So speaking to that to a room full of people in a broad context of focus on tune into your breath, even if it's just that tune into your breath and know how your breath is affecting your movement, that can be really impactful for people too. I mean, I know it has been for me.
Yeah.
Honestly, like you always
exhale with exertion. Yep. That is such a key. And I'm always grateful. I actually learned that for the first time way back in high school when I took a weightlifting class. And it was I know, it was like the one thing that I remember from that class. And I'm not much of a weightlifter, but I did. Our coach, he was like, I went to a small town high school, and he was like the coach of all sorts of things. But he had said, you got to breathe out when you do your push up with the weights, chest press and stuff like that, bench press. And so exhale with exertion was what he said. It's been reiterated in a lot of trainings that I've done and just information I've read. And it really is important. And I think a lot of people aren't taught that really basic tip. It's just so simple and it can really help. So.
And it's easy to lose sight of it too when you're in a class. Like in the classes I teach, the music is very loud. The room is dark. There's a lot of people. There's a lot going on. And even when you're at the gym nowadays, there's a lot going on. There's tons of people. You're listening to music in your headphones. It's very easy to lose track of your breath, and even going throughout your day. All of a sudden you realize, oh my God, I've been taking these small, shallow breaths. I haven't even really been breathing today. Yes. And so to find those moments throughout your day where you can tune into your breath, and throughout your workouts where you're tuning into your breath, it just, I don't know, makes you feel alive and really be able to connect to your body.
Oh yes. It's very Zen. It's very mind body, spirit, sort of be in the moment, be in the now. It is a way to come into you rather than all the distractions of the world. So well said.
Okay. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Okay. So if, an individual like me, so when I went to my pelvic floor physical therapist, and I've only seen her once, and then we were in San Francisco, and we recently moved to Mill Valley. And so for those who aren't familiar with this area, Mill Valley is a little kind of smaller town outside of San Francisco. So I'm looking for a new pelvic floor physical therapist just to have that hands-on experience as well.
Uh-huh.
But the one I saw said I had a grade 1.
Okay.
Right? Is that how they're graded? Like 1, 2,
Yep.
3.
Mm-hmm.
And not to run until I got to the certain weight of the vaginal weights.
Okay.
And that makes sense to me too. Like I kind of understand that. But do you recommend, I know that earlier you were saying to try a little bit and then see how it feels. And then, maybe you need to pull back or maybe you can keep going. So even if you have a grade 1 or grade 2 prolapse, do you think it's okay to see how your body feels, like maybe running up an incline or jogging up an incline? Or do you think it's best? And obviously this is hard because you haven't seen me.
Yeah.
But, or do you think it's usually best just to wait until you're fully healed and you feel like it's the right time to try and push a little?
Such a good question, girl. So here's my advice to you, or my thoughts. Again, the disclaimer that you are not my patient. I am not giving you medical advice. I'm not saying anything that you work with your physical therapist, but just friend to friend here. What I would say to you is that with a grade 1 and even 2 are fairly mild, especially grade 1. That's a very mild prolapse. Yay! Yeah. So of course we want to support it and keep it mild. We don't want to do anything that's going to push it and make it worse. So we want to prevent the progression of your prolapse, of course. But you're doing that through your lifestyle stuff, your management, your strengthening exercises, your proper breathing. You're doing a great job. So my thought for you would be, I'm a huge proponent of you must tune into your own body because you're the only one that can know where you're really at, honestly. And so I say, in my opinion, I think you would be fine to do some very gentle intervals of jogging. So you could jog, you could try the incline is, it's a little bit harder for your breathing. It's a little bit more challenging to jog uphill, but yet you're usually doing a bit of a lighter step. It's more of like a doot, 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 rather than a pound, pound, pound on a flat surface. Right. So that can be a really nice way to start. You want to make sure that you're breathing. You're not holding your breath. You're really keeping the breath flowing, that you're keeping a good posture. And then I would do less than you think you can. So if you think you can do 3 minutes of jogging, I would do 30 seconds, like honestly. And then, so stop before you're even risking pushing too hard. Right. And that's my advice to you. And then see how it feels. Maybe do a couple of those 30-second intervals. And then if it goes well and you feel like all is well the next day, even it's like, okay, yeah, then you could try it again a couple of times a week and then work up to more and more and more.
Right. Okay. So do you think that the pelvic floor reacts to that in a way that it feels the pressure and it learns to kind of bounce back and strengthen instead of just getting weaker if you slowly introduce these things?
Yeah, exactly.
Or is it hard to say?
Well, no, I mean, that's part of it right there, what you just said. Okay. The other part is that you're not, by the slow introduction, is you're not pushing too far. And so you're not, again, you're not preventing, you're not aggravating the condition and contributing to the progression of the condition, contributing to it getting worse. Because the last thing we want to do, if we push too hard and your body's just not ready for it and things fall a little bit, because prolapse is a problem of lack of support from underneath, from the muscles, but also a lack of support from the internal ligaments and the tissues that hold everything up. And unfortunately, there's not a lot we can do about that. I mean, we can manage it, but the one way to manage it is to not push things too hard and too far. So that's where you really need to be so careful with that gradual exposure. Right. That so you're kind of gradually strengthening up the muscles tolerance from below, but you're also not pushing too hard so that we, damage anything that's on the inside. Right. That makes sense?
That totally makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
this is so fun. I'm being interviewed. This is great.
I know. Sorry. I'm like, I could talk to you all day. I'm trying to think of the other thing that I was going to ask you. It was about the running and then I can't remember, but I also wanted to say for people watching this, for moms watching this who are super busy and it's hard. I love that you always talk about like you always say to people watching your videos, like you deserve the time to heal yourself. And I love when you say that, because it's such a reminder to me, because it is easy to go like, I just don't have the time to do my lift series today.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're watching this and you're super busy and maybe you've started it and then week 3 comes around and you're like, I'm busy, I don't have time. And then 1 day passes and 2 days pass and 3 days pass. I know that I did week 4 for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, and then you get to week 5.
Yeah.
And I think just doing something every day, like maybe you don't progress on this linear scale that you would like, where you go from 1 to 2 to 3, but you can do week 1 for a week and a half, and then do week 2 for the full week, and then maybe move to week 3. So giving yourself that grace and that time to know that maybe it takes you longer than 5 weeks, but at least you're still doing the full course, and you're still taking that time out of your day for yourself to heal yourself.
Yes.
Because you know, we are worth it and we deserve that time.
Yep. And it's going to make you a stronger physically and mentally person to give yourself that time. And that's going to make you a better mom and a better partner and a better, happier person. And I always say I have the best job in the world is I get to spread the joy of healthy living, because that's what it is. That's the purpose of this life, right? It's to feel good and to feel our best.
Totally.
And when we can feel our best, that also makes other people feel their best. And that is truly the purpose, is for us to feel good and also for us to help others feel good. So you really do that by treating yourself well through eating clean, moving every day, and all those, you know, it's just that sometimes I think that, gosh, I'm not really curing cancer or doing something like rocket science that's going to change the world. But the thing is, I am in my small way.
Yeah.
And everyone who is trying their best to live their healthiest lives is doing a small thing to make the world a better place. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And then with nursing too, because I'm still nursing. And so I think that also I've heard that the prolapse gets a little bit better once you're no longer nursing and those hormones aren't circulating in your body.
Yeah, that's actually huge thing right there. Everyone who is in your situation, please know that the hormonal changes don't stop until after you've weaned, and after that has, you know, even then it's going to take a little while for everything to just rebalance. And so your body is still got those pregnancy hormones circulating. So again, grace with yourself. Just allow yourself that time to do things for yourself and also to heal. Time to heal. It took 9 months to carry the baby, longer than that even. And then it is an injury and a trauma to have the baby. And then you know, the healing process really begins, you know, after you give birth. But even after the initial trauma is recovering, you're still having to deal with all of those changes even beyond that. So it's a long process.
Yeah. And I think it can be, especially as someone who likes to be really active, it can feel very frustrating to not be able to do what you once did, and to watch other women do. Like there's a woman who comes to my class and she's amazing. Like we had babies at the same time and she's running again and she can do everything. And clearly her body has healed really well. And it's so inspiring to watch someone be able to do that. But then there's also the moments of like, why can't I do that? Like, why do I have to have this injury? And so giving yourself that grace to know everyone's on their own journey, and sometimes like your own healing takes longer, and that's okay. And just to be really happy for the people that get to go back and do what they love, and to know that eventually I'll get to go back and do that too. And the frustration can creep in. And so to allow yourself to feel the frustration, but then to go back to positive resources like you, and to get back on your healing journey, and to be thankful for the things that I can do. Like I can still walk, I can still lift light weights, I can still move my body in other ways that I enjoy. And so I think coming back to gratitude and to grace is so important when you're not able to maybe fully do the things that as an athlete you love to do.
So true. Yep. And you know what? It's possible that woman on the treadmill is running with a pessary too. So we just don't know.
I've chatted with her. I think she's just had this like amazing, I think she just had a great birth and her body healed super well. And I'm like, that gives me hope for my next pregnancy and labor and delivery, you know, that there's also a lot of women who don't have to deal with these things, and that's wonderful. But for those of us that do, to know that we're not alone, and that there's other people experiencing these things, and there's other people having these frustrations, and that there's something we can do about it.
Yeah.
It's not, we don't just have to live with it, and we can be proactive. And there's beautiful people like you who provide resources that we can all have access to. And that's an amazing thing.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for sharing your experiences. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up now. Is there anything that you wanted to leave people with, and how can people connect with you? I know you have a beautiful Instagram account, and anyone who's in your area and wants to take your class, how can they find you?
Yeah. So I don't even know if I said, oh, you said my name. My name is Gabby. So my Instagram is Gabby De Nigris. I think it's at GABBY _De Nigris, DENIGRIS. And my website is the same, gabbydenigris.com. And yeah, if you go on there, you can find my classes. And I think the last thing I would say is just kind of just reiterating to have grace and gratitude, and to know that it is a process and it's a healing journey like any other healing journey. Your pelvic floor is no different. And you don't have to live with discomfort. You don't have to live with things that are common. And you can truly heal yourself. And I think that's incredibly empowering.
I do too. And to know that even athletes and fitness professionals deal with this stuff too, and we just have to talk about it. So,
and do the lift series, because
and
that
do
is
the lift series.
It is amazing. Take the time.
Yes, thank you. Well, I'll put links to everything in the video notes. And thanks again, Gabby, for being on the show. And thanks everyone for watching.
The work you do.
Bye.
Bye.